Hi BookTube, Aaron here. Hope you're doing very well, and welcome back to my 2024 library tour. This is part 13, I think, and we're on to the second shelf of this white bookcase here. So we'll see if we can get through another entire shelf. First up, and this is a real mishmash again. First off, we've got My Past and Thoughts Memoirs Volume 1 by Alexander Herzen. I picked this up with no idea who Alexander Herzen was. And yeah, I keep thinking I'll get to it. I was planning of maybe getting to it for Non-Fiction November this year in 2024, and didn't get around to it, so it's one for some other point, I suppose. And then some Carl Jung. I've been meaning to dip back in and see what's going on, and just haven't for a while. But I've got his Answer to Job, and then I've got Man and His Symbols, which is mainly edited by Jung, and then it's got some sort of essays by some other Jungians. I think it's got one or two essays by Jung in there as well. Then we've got Classics and Commercials by Edmund Wilson, a literary chronicle of the 1940s. This is mainly his reviews, and it looks like it's got quite a variety of stuff being mentioned and being covered in there. Then on into some drama. We've got the plays of Anton Chekhov. I quite like the major plays. I'm not a massive fan of the little sort of one-act plays they had in there. But my favourite Chekhov play is probably Three Sisters, which is sort of, I think, overshadowed by The Seagull and The Cherry Orchard, and Uncle Vanya. I think Uncle Vanya might be my second favourite. And then we've got Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe in a lovely Norton Critical. I'm thinking of potentially doing a big Faustian deep dive, at least starting next year. We'll see how that goes. Eugene O'Neill. This is Anna Christie and the Emperor Jones. Then we've got Hamlet by William Shakespeare. I quite like the Shakespeare Oxford editions. I've had a couple of others in the past. The only other that I have at the moment is the oops, something just fell out. The complete sonnets and poems, or long poems. No, the complete sonnets and poems. I think I've had Romeo and Juliet in this edition as well. But I also have a complete Norton Shakespeare, as well as all of Shakespeare on my Kindle as well. So there's no real need to have the individual Oxford editions, really, if only for the criticism, really. And I do love the introductions to the Oxford Shakespeare books. I think they're really, really good. And so, yeah, it's a little temptation there for me to eventually have all of Shakespeare in about four or five different editions. Then we have John Webster, 3 plays. We have The White Devil, The Duchess of Malfi, and The Devil's Law Case. The Duchess of Malfi is one of my favourite plays of all time. We've got a little standalone volume of The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. And then we also then have the apparently complete works of Oscar Wilde. Although if I'm correct, it doesn't include De Profundis. So it's certainly missing one work, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were other things missing from there. Then we've got the Norton Anthology of Poetry. This is the 5th edition, and this is just one of my favourite books to come back to and just read randomly. Whenever there's a poet that I'm thinking of maybe trying, I go to see if they're in the Norton Anthology, and I give them a go there before going out and buying an individual volume of their work. Then we have The Making of a Poem, a Norton Anthology of Poetic Forms. This is edited by, or really written as well, by Mark Strand and Evan Boland. And this was quite good. I should probably dip in every now and then, but I sort of read it all the way through a while ago and liked it. It was good. I might try and read it with, for more of an emphasis on what they have to say about the forms themselves rather than the poems sort of represented in there, which I was a little distracted by, I suppose, when I read it. I was just enjoying all these new poems that they were throwing at me. So there were some poems that I hadn't heard of before, so with that now out of the way, maybe I can focus more on what they have to say about the forms. Then we've got the best poems of the English language by Harold Bloom, one of many books by Harold Bloom where the title really doesn't matter at all. A terrible title for the book that's actually in there, but it's it's still a very interesting and worthwhile poetry anthology. Then we've got Poetry 1900 to 2000. It's an anthology of poems from Wales put out by the Library of Wales, edited by Meg Stevens. I haven't really dipped into it that much, but it should give me a good idea of I forgot where I was going with the rest of that sentence. There'll be plenty of interesting poets in there. Then we have Apocalypse, an anthology edited by James Keary. This is an anthology of apocalyptic poetry, and I loved this. I love the sort of mid-20th century apocalyptic poets. Then we have The Other Tiger, recent poetry from Latin America, edited by Richard Gwynne, one of my old professors at university. Then we have the Penguin Book of Haiku. Who's this edited by? This is translated and edited by Adam L. Kern. And I didn't particularly like this. I don't know whether it was the translation, whether it was the choice of haiku represented in there, or whether it was simply that I'm not a big fan of the haiku form. I couldn't quite work out what it was, but I didn't particularly enjoy that reading experience. Then there's the Penguin Book of Modern African Poetry. Then we have, everything's falling down, the Penguin Book of the Prose Poem. This is edited by Jeremy Noel Todd from the University of East Anglia, I should say that the Penguin Book of Modern African Poetry is edited by Gerald Moore and Yuli Beer. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, it collects it by country as well. And then two more to go. We've got a lovely little Faber anthology of 20th century French poems. Now there's two more. One of my favourite books, Surrealist Poetry in English. This is edited by Edward B. Germain. This is edited by Stephen Romer. And then, just to finish off, we have Georgian Poetry, and this is selected and introduced by James Reeves. So there we go, another another part of the library tour done, and that's excuse me, sorry, I just had to pause to have a coughing fit. That's most of this bookcase done now, so that's most of the 2024 library tour finished. The next one will be quite short. There aren't nearly as many books on the next shelf. And so yeah, it's been fun going through. I'll try to remember to include the playlist so that you'll have last time's one if you didn't catch it, of these books here, and then all these books behind me on that bookcase and that bookcase as well. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you're doing very well, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.